Well, hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and the hype and excitement around Civilization 7 couldn't be more real. Welcome aboard to our first look at the opening cinematic for Civilization 7 that just recently dropped at the Game Awards, and it was a hell of a good time to see not only this trailer, but also a live musical performance of the music from the game. It's really cool to see this game coming together, and we'll be releasing very soon, just around the corner in February, and we might get ourselves an earlier look before that. And there's been tons of gameplay already from Firaxis themselves, showing the Age of Antiquity, the Age of Exploration, and then of course we've got the Modern Age coming very soon too, so a lot of hype and excitement about this one, with a few other civilizations that are revealed to go into the Modern Age too, that we'll talk about in just a bit. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you hit that like button and lock in for a wild ride of all sorts of cool stuff related to Civilization 7, as we have yet to see everything from this game. News is coming out left and right about unique buildings and unique quarters and units that are not only just military units, but also unique civilian units too, and just all sorts of cool stuff that builds the hype and excitement, and I really hope that everybody enjoys this game tremendously. I was a little worried when it first was revealed to everyone, and not everybody was really in full agreement about the different system of how the ages will work, with kind of having to pick different civilizations throughout time, but it is actually true that so many different cultures did come from previous civilizations, I should say, and a good example being the Romans to the British, for example, with London and whatnot, as they've explained several times before. But that's not just the only thing, and of course you can have different history in this game and many different choices. It's not linear, but you can kind of have a couple of what-if scenarios, and that applies to many of the different empires and cultures and different cultures that go throughout history, and that's a pretty cool and unique thing to see, and really a big risk for Firaxis. It's something that's never really been done before in the game, and that we've all seen in games like Humankind, where you can kind of create your own cultures in almost any type of combination. And maybe those types of game modes will come along. Maybe there'll be mods or something like that. It certainly seems entirely possible. But what I wanted to do here was show you the trailer for the game primarily, the cinematic opening, and kind of get your reactions and thoughts to it, and take a backseat as we kind of unveil this, and then talk a little bit more about Civilization 7 before its release. And remember, the Modern Age is going to be revealed very shortly on Firaxis' official page, so we'll have a whole breakdown on that, likely to be a couple-hour live stream from them. So there's going to be an amazing amount of information, which a lot of it could be soft information too, where they don't necessarily directly mention something, but it could actually be like a they'll show a different civilization in the background that we hadn't seen before. They won't mention anything on it, but it'll be on screen, so you never know where you're going to see. All right, let's watch the trailer and do a little reaction to that.
The past is more than what we leave behind. We celebrate our triumphs and bury our regrets. Every age has its secrets. In each layer of history, we can rediscover hope. A way to chart our future. countless stories are carved into the Earth's strata. The lessons of one age augur the next. We must learn from our past. The future is waiting.
That is one mighty fine trailer, and it actually builds onto what they're trying to do with Civilization 7, with one culture kind of discovering the history of another and somewhat intertwining that with their own. And one of the nations that's coming to the modern age that will certainly have a lot to do with a previous nation is Mexico. They're going to have a government type that kind of starts as a revolution, as the Mexicans actually had their own, revolution as well in history in real life, and so that's what they're going to have here, is a revolution that is their only starting type in the modern era, and that's really cool. So as you may have seen on the main thumbnail for this video too, did you see it? Yeah, that's right. Abraham Lincoln confirmed as the leader for the United. I'm just kidding. It's George Washington. Nah, I'm just kidding. No, it's Ben Franklin. Yeah, on the thumbnail of this video we have for the USA, Ben Franklin is one of the leaders, and during another different Firaxis event, they did show a little bit of Japan too, as well as Mexico, as I had mentioned. So we definitely know that Japan, Mexico, and the USA will be nations that can have some benefits in modern times. So that'll kind of be the end of a tree, for example, of history, of the different options that we can choose. Now, another one is Buganda that I've seen too, and I don't know too much about that, but I do know a little bit more about Mexico. I do want to mention that these nations will all have this in common, where they will have like a government starting type, something that defines them, as they're not necessarily their own civilizations until this point, much later, and then there'll be like a celebration effect for Mexico after their revolution of being now independent, which will give them a cultural boost. And then there's also going to be, all the nations will have, or as I say nations, I mean civilizations or cultures as a catch-all term. They will have their own unique infrastructure, and that includes buildings and also different unique quarters, which is really cool. It's not just going to be buildings, but also like sections of a city that can be dedicated to certain things, and they'll have those in addition to unique buildings. And then there'll be civic trees, and then also special people, not just generals anymore, but like civilians who will be units that we can kind of use in order to modify. And I think they're so powerful that we might only get one. I have yet to find a little bit more detail on that and to see a little bit more information on that, but it's all still coming out from Firaxis in terms of, we've not yet seen the modern age officially from them on their YouTube channel. So definitely subscribe here, because we are going to watch that and have some breakdown news on that, because man, I think that's really what a lot of people want to see, is the modern age. It gets a little tedious to get through, and that's one of the things that Firaxis said, that's why they made Civilization 7 this way. They wanted to make Civ 7 a little bit more bite-sized in chapters, so that way people could take a break in between, play other games or whatnot, or come back and explore more of the game. And that's something that a lot of people didn't see. Obviously, everybody always saw the ancient times, like prehistoric times, and like maybe up to the Bronze Age, something that all the nations and all the cultures and all the civilizations went through in those games. But yeah, they did not really often see the modern period and things with like modern tanks and nuclear war and things that are in the end of the game, that there's a lot there, and so a lot of people were missing big portions of the game, and so that's why they're trying to do things this way. And so it's a great way to try to have them do that. Now, in addition to those unique civilians, the Mexicans, just like others, will have their own unique infantry units too, and that's going to be exciting to see what puts them apart later in a game of Civilization 7. In addition to Mexico, Japan, Buganda, and the USA, I also noticed that the English are there, as well as the French Empire. So that'll be very cool to see their buildings and how they differ, especially in the modern era. And then also Mughal India. So India will move on through to the later times, and it's going to be really interesting to see, for example, all of India having all these different civilizations that you can move through and then eventually end on to like one. A lot of these might have one endpoint for a modern civilization, but it's going to be interesting to see where these different advantages come to fruition later on in the game. So if you're, for example, having a rough start in the Antiquity Age, you're going to go on to the Exploration Age and have maybe a massive advantage, and if you can hold on to that in the modern era, that'd be really cool for something like a science victory or a military victory, for example. Now, Firaxis is showing a lot more as time goes on their YouTube channel. For example, they recently had the Antiquity Age a couple of months ago, showing the beginning of pretty much every game of how Civ is going to look and feel, obviously, like the one tile, you know, and exploring with your scouts, and then moving on to the Age of Exploration, which allows us to do a lot more than just that. Now, when I played, I and many others were invited to Firaxis out in Maryland and played this game. And this game was really fun for the Age of Antiquity. I had a lot of warfare that I wasn't intending to get into, and only had about an hour or two to play the game. It's kind of a blur now, but I remember enjoying what I saw, but I and no one else was able to yet get their hands on the Age of Exploration or the Modern Age. So all the information we have is coming out from Firaxis on this one, and so I'm very, very curious to see what they are going to do for showcasing the future parts of this game. Now, we've got a few months to go, and after they've shown the 3 ages, which will be up in a couple of days for the modern age, I wonder what they're going to do next. We're seeing wonderful things for the music of the game and the cinematic trailers for the game, and also this wonderful opening for the game too. So I'm curious to see what other things they're going to show. And I believe from the age, the modern age, we're going to now work backwards, where we're going to show more details about this age, the Age of Exploration, and the Age of Antiquity, that makes those ages unique to Civilization 7. And then I feel like we're going to see then now a breakdown of each nation, like for example Japan or the USA, in their respective areas, where they're going to be unique with their things that I mentioned before, like their revolution or their celebration effects, cultural boosts, things like civic trees and civilian and infantry units. And I think we're going to get a much deeper dive in each of the different civilizations, so that way everybody who loves Egypt or Rome can get really excited about it, or maybe reveal some civilizations that we don't know are in there, but definitely have to be in there. More information on, like, and by that I mean the classics. Like, let's learn more about Greece and Rome and Egypt, civilizations that have to be there. Like, it would be weird if they weren't. Like, hey guys, we have ancient China and we don't have, like, you know, Japan, or we don't have you know, the Egyptians in there. It would just be weird. But anyway, always happy to see more, and you know they're going to have DLCs for this, so if there's a nation that you want to see in there, they might have it in there one day. Alright guys, that's all that I have today for some brief details on Civilization 7, but consider this more of a heads up. It's, hey, there's some big information coming for the modern age, and here on this channel we have yet to dive a little deeper into things like the Exploration Age, and that'll be filled with hype and excitement. Alright everybody, thanks for subbing, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.